All right, so welcome back to Keepin the Comic, and we are jumping back into this new Wolverine series here because Wolverine is going to be bonded with this new gold metal that is stronger than adamantium. And where we picked up on here in this last series, we had just seen where Wolverine's old nemesis Cyber, after losing his fight with Wolverine, he was then brought to a cave where this new metal started taking over and coating over his adamantium skin. Now in this one, we find out that that gold, the metal that we're talking about here, is called adamantium, which we're going to be getting a little bit more information about later on. Now, where the story picks up on right now is where Cyber is out in Kyoto, Japan, and he's brutally taking out all the men that are here right now at this dojo, displaying absolutely zero mercy whatsoever. Now, when he finishes off the last man here, we hear a female voice, and that is the voice here of Lady Deathstrike. So she jumps out and lunges after him, and she's pissed off because she's like, yo, listen, these were my trainees, and Cyber took them down without even breaking a sweat. So Lady Deathstrike, she's asking the question, she's like, she calls him by his real name first and foremost. She's like, Silas Burr, and she wants to know what he is after. And she's also kind of puzzled about the whole thing. She's like, what is this new golden sheen that you have coating over your adamantium skin? And also, what's up with this dude's eyes? So Cyber, this dude is not saying anything at all. And in response, Lady Deathstrike strikes his elbow. Now, when she does that here, what happens is that we start to see this like golden goo start to cover her face, start to cover her entire skin. And then suddenly she starts screaming, and it looks like she's basically becoming possessed, which is basically what happened to Cyber when he met or got in contact here with the adamantine. So the adamantine now is starting to take over Lady Deathstrike's body. And the narration says this, it says, silencing the screeching of the false metal, talking about the adamantium. It grows stronger each time it purifies and reclaims unworthy scrap of adamantium. And soon it will be strong enough to silence all of it. Now, Lady Deathstrike's eyes and claws, they're now starting to glow with this adamantine, transforming her completely. Now, meanwhile, as it pertains to Wolverine here, he's currently right now dealing with a new Wendigo that he's been stuck babysitting here for a while, and we will not really get into that part of the story because it's really ultimately not really that interesting. Now, during his downtime here, Wolverine witnesses a nasty accident on the road, and he picks up the scent of a military explosive, and then he heads over to investigate like what's going on here. And there he finds these like tactical SUVs. He sees a secure transport truck that's been blown up. He also sees a bunch of dead uniformed guards that are just scattered around. Now, this was clearly a prisoner transport convoy in general that was going on here. And he was like, yo, someone powerful must have busted free, because you can see here that the top of the truck is pretty much pried wide open. And then Wolverine realizes that they must have been transforming, like I said, a pretty heavy duty prisoner here. So then he catches a scent of something familiar, he says, that adamantium. And then suddenly an adamantium tentacle launches directly at this dude's face. Now, Wolverine was able to duck in time, and then the attacker, like the person who's attacking him, starts complaining. They're like, come on, man, give me a break. The Wolverine? Really? You can't let the guy have anything, can you? So it turns out that this guy right here is the Constrictor. Now, the original Constrictor is dead. So this must be his son who did take over the mantle after he died. But the thing is, we have no idea what his actual name is, so we're just gonna call him the Constrictor, aka the Constrictor. So then the Constrictor starts rambling all right about how he got these messages while he was in prison, promising him freedom during the transfer. And when the truck blew up, he said, he was like, listen, I killed the guards, but of course, a hero has to show up to ruin my escape. And he even throws a jab at Wolverine, like an emotional jab here. He was like suggesting that the X-Men are all supposed to be on some island nowadays anyways, which really pisses off Wolverine because you know how sensitive he is about the whole Krakoa thing right now. So he's like, listen, stop talking, bub. Now, so they get to fighting here, and I'll be honest with you, the fight itself is pretty uneventful. But let's go through it anyways here, right? So the constrictor, one of his coils hits Wolverine hard enough that Wolverine is down for a moment, and you can see him holding his head here. Now Wolverine recovers, right? And then slashes at the constrictor's leg, drawing some blood. Now in retaliation here, Wolverine throws the constrictor onto a car. The constrictor then comes back at him. Wolverine literally breaks the car in half with his claws. And while Wolverine is about to attack the constrictor's face, the constrictor just like starts begging for him not to. And I'm just sitting here like, what? Like, but then again, I'm reminded, right, that this dude is Constrictor's son and not the actual constrictor. So surprisingly enough here, Wolverine shows some mercy, and then he stabs to the right here of the car, and the constrictor's face is saved. But then this dude just like passes out from shock. See what I'm saying? A very uneventful fight. So since Wolverine can't call the authorities, because in his mind, he's like, listen, the Wendigo is still close by here. So if he smells this blood or anything like that, that he's going to want to come over here. So he calls Nightcrawler for a favor, and he's like, listen, here are the coordinates. And I'm assuming he just wants Nightcrawler to bamf over there and take him and then bring him back to where there's some heavy security that can take care of him. But listen, what happens next here is what's really interesting, right? Because Lady Deathstrike shows up. Now, after dealing with the constriction here, Wolverine catches another familiar scent. And when he turns around, he sees Yuriko, aka Lady Deathstrike. Now, Wolverine and Lady Deathstrike, they have a long, complicated history, right? Like her father invented the process that bonds adamantium to the bone, the same process that is forced, or that was forced onto Wolverine. And she's often tried to kill him, blaming him for stealing the metal that was her family's legacy. But this time, something is off. Instead of spouting speeches and threats, Lady Deathstrike is very quiet here. And when Wolverine demands as to why she's there, she just answers with her sword, is what he says. And her silence to Wolverine is very unnerving for him, because normally Lady Deathstrike loves making proclamations before a fight. Wolverine notices that her talons, when they pop out, are now coated with the golden metal, and he realizes that this isn't the Lady Deathstrike that he knows and how she's changed. So he asks a question. He's like, yo, what's going on? You got an upgrade? But before he can finish, she knees him in the chin, sending this dude flying. Now, while Wolverine was trying to recover, Lady Deathstrike picks up the constrictor's unconscious body, and the same golden goo starts spreading all over the constrictor's adamantium, turning into the adamantine. And then, seeing her back turn, Wolverine decides, yo, it's time for round two. But this time, Lady Deathstrike, when she turns back around, she doesn't even attack. Instead, she finally speaks. And when she speaks, Wolverine is like, this is not Lady Deathstrike's voice at all. The voice says to Wolverine, you are deafened by the screeching of the false metal within you. You have not yet heard the call of the adamantine. So then Wolverine is like, yo, the call of the what? Like, what are you talking about? And then she says, it will speak to you if you will only listen. And this is when we start to see Wolverine's eyes start to glow with that gold that we've been seeing everyone else have, while he starts to scream. And then it says that that voice that isn't Deathstrike's rings in his ears for an impossibly long moment. Then it becomes something else, a cold, metallic sound calling to me. It's not mind control or telepathy. It feels older, primal. It feels so ancient, I can hear the passing of the ages. And this visual here is pretty creepy, dark, and cool at the same time, because you can see the adamantine coating over his adamantium skeleton. And he continues, he's like, I've got good ears. I can always tell where a sound is coming from. And just before I pass out, I realize that ancient primal presence is coming from my own bones. And it is official. Wolverine has now been bonded with the adamantine. And the quest for this new gold metal, or should we say old ancient gold metal, to purge the world of adamantium continues. And it looks like we're going to be having an adamantine army that's going to be showing up here in the very next issue. So listen, I want to know what your thoughts are here. What do you think about this new gold medal? Leave it down below in the comments. Also, if you can do us a favor here and hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also, subscribe if you are new here to the channel. Check out our links that are down below in the description, where you can follow us on social media, on Twitter/X, Instagram, and where you can also follow us, and where you can also join us in our Discord. And as always, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic. Bye.